I sorry, I didn't post for a couple of days. I had my little boy here with me, so I think I had to spend time with him. Hence, only continuing today. So, don't want to make the video too long. So, let me just get right to it. Just want to add something to the morning that my ribs got broken in. I remember where I was lying in the corner of between the cupboard and the wall. It was about 4 meters from the bathroom, probably another 2 meters to the basin. There was blood everywhere. I mean, my nose was just pouring out. It wasn't dripping, it was literally pouring out. And my grandmother once again came to my savior. She was upset and obviously helped me clean the blood. And there was literally a trail of blood from where I lied back to the bathroom. But yeah, nevertheless, so I got up, cleaned up, went to school, normal day. And so we obviously then moved to Pretoria with this aunt of ours. My grandparents and I moved up to Pretoria. I got given the granny flat in this aunt's house, or husband's house, their house. They had 3 daughters, and I think it's right about this time where I was 14 years old by this time, and I knew a little bit better of what was going on. And I think this is probably where I started going wrong and doing wrong. Up until this point, I think I was just a little innocent boy who didn't know any different. I met a DJ who became a friend of mine. So there was a club not too far from where we lived. I used to sneak out at night and go to the club and sit with him while he was making music. At night he had a little trailer that he hooked onto his bicycle, and I helped him transport all his stuff back and so forth. And around about this time is where I didn't wake up at 4, 5, 6 in the morning anymore. I remember my aunt's husband one morning, my alarm went off, and I obviously didn't wake up because I probably only went to bed at like 4 in the morning or something, I don't know. And he literally put the hose through the window and he hosed my whole room to wake me up. Me and him got into altercation a couple of times. Can't remember exactly what it was about. I probably was a little bit wrong as well, but again, I'm a guest in someone else's house. They have their own rules and regulations. I've moved so much that I don't think that I had any proper foundation of right from wrong. And at this age, I think I also became a little bit deceitful because of the way I lived. You obviously pick up certain character traits to survive, and things must have gone wrong between all of us, and I definitely did a couple of things wrong, I can admit to that. But I got a beating once, and if I say beating, it's fists, knees, feet. And I think the third time my eye got kicked open, the side of my face or something, and the school actually asked me what had happened. And I then told them the story, and they laid charges against this individual. And my cousin who had bought me a bicycle, was a nice green Peugeot bicycle. I then got threatened to have that taken away if I did not withdraw the case, and I just stuck it through, and I said I'm not going to withdraw it. I got kicked out of the house at 14. My grandmother, again, my savior, I think, let me tell you something about my grandmother, and I actually feel sorry for her because she was a good lady, and I think what she saw and had to endure and stay with her husband through all of that, I don't know what happened prior to us being there, but there must have been something going on, because she was truly fearful and obedient. I think she was she tried to practice the Christian faith as best possible, and I remember she just gazed at the clouds, and she was always bad mouthed for it. I think that was just her way. She was a dreamer. That was just her way of escaping reality. But yeah, I think a lot of my empathetic personality traits come from her. I think she definitely guided me in a humane manner, and obviously definitely helped become the person I am today. Anyway, so a friend of mine, I went to school, a friend of mine offered for me to come live in their garage. So I took a blanket, literally a blanket, 2 pillows, a little radio, and some stuff that I had, clothes, and I lived in the garage. And then from the garage, they let me live in the little granny flat they had. Again, I was sleeping on the ground with only a blanket and a pillow. It's all I had. And I still went to school. I did go to school, and I never skipped school. And at this house, I remember being so hungry some days that when nobody was home, I would climb through the window and go take food out of the fridge and eat. At school, I also got some food because they had, I don't know, I call it the welfare line, where people who don't have food stand and they were given bread or something to eat for the day. So I often landed in those lines for sustenance. And like I said, obviously I broke into their house and I stole food. I'll be honest about it, I was hungry. It's at this stage my sister came to visit my grandmother. She was from Springs at the time. And she found me on the ground and she said, no, this is no way for a 14-year-old boy to live. Her being, 4 years older than me, she must have been 18 or 19, I can't remember the exact age and so forth. I just know she's about 4 years older than me. I went to Springs to live with him. I went to school there, and I think this is where my bearings just fell off completely. I made a wrong friend. We started walking around at night just catching all kinds of mischief. Yeah, we did bad things. We weren't good. We stole things. We started selling them. It was just no good. There were constant arguments in the house between me, my sister, and I don't know if they were married at the time, boyfriend, husband, and she had a very small little boy. And yeah, it was, I guess, okay-ish, except for the fact that there was absolutely no guidance. And while I lived there, I got told one day that the welfare had said that I cannot be there. I need to be in care of my lawful caregivers, who were my grandparents. And in that time, they'd moved down to Cape Town to the same uncles that we moved from in Bloemfontein. And I remember going to school and my bicycle was broken. I couldn't ride it or something. I can't remember exactly what was wrong. And I actually said to the teacher that obviously I just walked kilometers, probably 10 kilometers to school, 10 kilometers back, to get my transfer paper. And I had one book or something that I didn't have with me, or something that they needed. And I asked them if they could please go fetch it from my house and then just give me the transfer, but they wouldn't. So I actually told them that I was going to steal a bicycle, and I did. I said to them, if you're going to force me to do this, and this is, like I said, around about the time where I started getting rebellious about my circumstances and unwillingness to help me out of the position I'm in. And yeah, so I stole a bicycle. I'll be honest about it. I told them I was going to do it. I went home, fetched the stuff, came back home, took my bicycle with me. My sister had bought me a train ticket and my bag of clothes, and I was on my way back to Cape Town. And I'll never forget, she gave me my grandfather's number and one of my uncle's numbers. Luckily she gave me my uncle's number, because otherwise I would have probably still been standing on the train station. So as I arrived in Cape Town, I phoned my grandfather, and the first thing he's like, what the F are you doing here? And I'm like, but I was told to come back here. You know that the welfare said that I would need to be in your care. And that was kind of his response. He simply didn't care. I then phoned one of my uncles, who later came to fetch me the day. Between the two of them, well, there were two of them in Cape Town at that stage, well, I think three. They lived on different locations. One was in Easterplaat and one was in Bellville. The one in Bellville, I think, is probably a better uncle out of the lot. It's the good mechanic I was telling you guys about. I don't remember too many bad things about him, other than he did his own fathering, which I was rather disappointed with. My grandfather had bought this Opel Kadett from him, which he obviously souped up, and it was like dropped and wider wheels and wider everything. And my grandfather bought it from him and fixed it back to the original stock standard mode, and it was a good looking car. That's one thing about my grandfather though, he looked after his stuff. He always made sure that it's in top-notch condition. And then this uncle of mine, he got a job at BMW. I think it was Bill Trosky, one of the rich oaks in Bloemfontein, and he swapped my grandfather the BMW Dolphin shape that just came out at the time for this Opel, and we left up to Pretoria with that car. And the bank came in Pretoria to take it back because he had never paid for it. So that's the only thing I do remember that I think is quite conniving. I mean, it's your own father, but I mean, I'm not here to judge anybody. Don't know what the truth was there. I just thought that was rather, what a situation. But anyway, yeah, he came to fetch me, and I then sort of lived in Easterplaat, but there was not really much space for me. I mean, at this stage, my uncle, he basically then sold that that Opel Kadett. He bought a motorbike, he left everything in Bloemfontein, and he just got on the bike and came to Cape Town for a woman. And I think she had a child, and they were living together in Bellville. And my other uncle had met a woman, I think he's married to them still, he might be, I don't know. They were living with my grandfather. Well, my grandmother and grandfather was living with him in Easterplaat, and they were in one room and he was in the other room with his wife, and I sort of landed on the couch. And at that stage, it was in the middle of the year, it was sort of June, July. The school in the area had no capacity, so I couldn't go to school for the rest of that year. And I met a couple of friends, and I was like just getting by from day to day. And I remember coming home one night. My grandfather was like I said, he was an alcoholic. He drank and then stopped and drank and stopped and drank and stopped. And I came home one night and everybody was piss drunk, and I can't remember exactly what happened, but this big uncle of mine, he's also the one that broke my ribs, he started pushing and shoving on me, and to the extent that it went down the passage again into the bathroom, and I was standing in front of the bath, and he took his two fists and punched me on my chest, and I fell back and hit my head in on the bath taps. And my grandmother, I'm in shame, she came to my grace again, pulled me out of the bath and helped me and said, no, stop this and stop. And I remember I was furious. I can't remember, I don't think I did anything wrong. I just came home, and they were all drunk, and grandfather was sitting in the room. At this stage, I think his left side of the brain, he drank half to death at this point. He started having trouble to walk, yeah. So I remember standing in front of the door, and I was like enraged, and I was like, because I mean, I just got beaten the crap out of me. I was a 15-year-old skinny boy. I mean, and he said like, what are you, a raging bull? And I can't remember if I answered him or no, I don't know. And then he was saying to one of my other uncles, yeah, if only he was a bit younger, then he would have given me a proper beating, like he would have shown me how it's done. And I remember then the one uncle gave him a knopkiri, it's a walking stick, and he came running after me with this thing, hitting me. And I remember running out the back door, and I just turned around and I thought to myself, you know what, eh? And I looked at him and I said, you know what, you want to hit me, so just hit me and get it done and over with. And as he hit, I ducked. Oh, he was furious because he missed. He was furious. And then I walked out the front yard and I said, listen, this is it, I'm done. I'm leaving. Like, I'm not going to live like this anymore. I've had it now. And yeah, go. And there we go. And I was on the streets at the age of 15 for the first time. And yeah, in this time, I met a friend who was also, I don't know if he got kicked out but at his parents, or he just didn't want to live there. I don't know what the story was. So we sort of hung out in the streets. his friends were, or family, I can't remember their friends or family, lived about 5 hours from my grandparents' place. And then we started living on the streets. I mean, I remember breaking into the rugby club, making a fire inside, nearly killing myself because I didn't know about all the smoke that would be in there. But it was freezing cold. I had nothing to sleep under. I just had the clothes that I left with. Eventually I went back to my grandparents' house and I said, listen, it's horrible on the streets. I'm hungry, I'm tired, I'm cold. And they said, well, you left, so get going. And I'm like, but can I sleep in the backyard? I had a little one-man tent with my body inside the tent and feet outside the tent. And I stayed there for 2 or 3 days, and I don't know why, but I left again. So I just came home every now and again to get fresh clothing from my grandmother. Yeah, I remember there was a corner shop that had like a cage around it. I used to take something and hook some of the fruits. Obviously stole fruit, and that's basically what I ate while I was on the streets. And somewhere in all of this, one friend of mine, he was, I can't remember why, but he was beating up his ex-girlfriend or something, and I climbed in between all of this and I said no, and I sort of got them out and I took her home. And this is I remember speaking to my grandmother just before I left, and I had good roots, but with everything that had happened, I started sort of deviating from my belief system. And up until this age, I was rather Christian and a believer, and I think that's why God had protected me so long, is I had faith. I had a lot of faith, and even if nobody took me, I walked to church on my own, and I really tried to do it. And I must be honest as well about this, and I think part of the reason I went completely off the rails is the churches. I saw that it's a big deceitful system. I mean, I read the word from what I could read, and I mean, 15-year-old boy, I'm none the wiser. But I could see that people are not living up to the standards that the Bible is explaining, and I sort of probably started doubting and not believing in this whole thing. And but anyway, I used to tell my grandmother, you know what, like, I never want to have sex before marriage, and I wanted to do things right and all of this. But anyway, so this girl, I think she was 16 or 17 years old, I can't remember the exact age, I was 15, took me home with her, and her father was away on a army tour. Mother and father was divorced, and she told her mother about me being out in the streets, and that I just protected her from this guy. And my mother was quite shocked that I'm on the streets at that age, and she said, no, listen, I'm going to speak to her dad, maybe you can live here for a while. And I lived there, and I remember this girl, and I don't know why I allowed it, but I mean, this is just how everything started going wrong for me at this stage. We slept together at that age, none the bloody wiser. For her, 2 days later, her boyfriend came around, and then while I'm in the same bloody bed as her, she slept with him. So that's sort of the deceit that I was dished out at that age already. Since then, I can say I sustained for at least 2 years after that, where I was just saying, no, this is not my lifestyle, this is not what I wanted to do. But anyway, I lived there for a while, and then back on the streets again. And I remember going to the welfare organization, and I said to them, listen guys, I don't know what is going on here, but I'm 15 years old. I've been living on the streets for 6 months, basically on and off. Some people have taken me in, like this girl and a mother, and I couldn't do this anymore. And at this stage, I remember then I lived with gangsters, and I was all over the show. I mean, everywhere I could get a place to sleep, I basically moved in for a while, and I was there. Thank God at this point I never did drugs. I tried crack once, and I just didn't take on me. I didn't like any of it. It wasn't me. I didn't like it. I didn't drink. I simply, like I said, up until this point, I was quite a Christian type boy, with strong Christian roots, that obviously from here dissipated tremendously. And So I remember landing with a bunch of guys, and they liked me because I was fearless. I mean, I would just walk into people's houses, kick the doors in, and I was just unstoppable. I feared nothing at this stage. Smashed cars, windows, a whole street full. Everybody was they started fearing me, and I was walking around with a golf club in my hand always. I always thought, if ever I get into a fight, now this is it. I'm gonna beat someone to crap. And anyway, I went to the welfare and I said to them, listen guys, you got me into this. I was living in Springs with my sister. I was at least in a house. As unstable as it was a million times better than what I've been enduring for the last 6 months. So I said to them, you need to get me out of this because you got me into this. And then they didn't even know about this. Well, they claimed not to have known. And they didn't give it a day's thought. And me at this stage, being who I was, I said, well then if you don't give me a place, then I will kill someone on the street today and you'll put me in jail, but I will be looked after from today. And I walked out, and I don't think they believed me, and I had a hockey stick in my hand. And I walked, and the first guy that looked at me not the way I liked was a truck driver, and I ran up to the truck and I just smashed him through the window. And everyone out of the welfare, or in the welfare office, they came, they ran, they grabbed me and they took me back in, and obviously they realized that I was pretty serious about what I said, and they started listening to me. They then took me back to my grandparents' place, which I obviously said to them, listen, I don't want to go there. You have no idea what I've endured up until now. And it's like they didn't quite believe me. And at this stage, I was in full rage. I mean, I beat my fists against the walls. I was, like I said, I was completely out of control. They took me back to my grandparents' house, and he started belittling me. And I broke out in tears. I couldn't handle it. I ran out the door. I ran across the street, and I just punched my fists broken on the barbecue wall. And they came out, and they were, what's going on? And that's the first day I ever swore at my grandfather. I was at the age of 15. I might have just turned 16 at that age. My birthday's in December, so it was around about then. I can't exactly remember the date now, but it must have been 15, 16. And I remember going back to the yard, the front gate, and I said to him, because he was basically bad mouthing me and telling me what a useless piece of crap I am, like he's always done. I mean, like I said, the Afrikaners, they were ruthless people, and they didn't like foreigners. And me being a first generation Greek Afrikaner, I was often told, yeah, you're Greek and you should be selling fruit and vegetables on the corners, like your family does, or like your lineage, or I don't know, I can't remember exactly what happened, but that's sort of what they used to always tell me. And I remember standing at the gate, and this is the first time I started retaliating, and I said to him, you know what, you've got a big mouth inside this yard, but come out here, and then I will face you man on today. And then I had the neighbor was a policeman, and he still put his head across or over the fence, and he looked at me and he started shouting at me. And I even said to him, listen, if you also have a bit of balls, then come here and I'll show you something today, because I've just had it with all of you now. And yeah, the welfare, so they took me away, and they put me in temporary foster care. I don't know if it's called foster care or what it's called, but I mean, again, they put me with the American gang leader's mother. He used to come in and out the house, and I remember he had this big bulldog tattoo with two big boxing gloves, and underneath it said, only God can challenge me, or something like that. And I actually got along with them well. Look, yes, they might be gangsters, but they're good people as well, and I can vouch for that, and because I've seen both sides of the fence. And it's also people that are just trying to make a living in this broken society. Obviously not the right way, but I think that the right way is a lot more difficult than the wrong way. But nevertheless, I then basically lived with them for a couple of months, and didn't go too bad while I lived there. There was no abuse, nothing. Like I said, they were probably one of the best people I lived with. No arguments, no fighting. Obviously, I did see a couple of things that I shouldn't. Got involved with people I shouldn't. Started hanging out with people I shouldn't. And soon thereafter, I got a new house to live in a place called Reiterwacht. in Cape Town. It's also it's sort of like a welfare community, and the people I got put with, they also had 3 other foster children. They were taken from a drug addict mother. I think the boy was 2, the other girl 3, and the other one 4, 5, or 6. I can't remember their exact ages, but they were very small. I think this video is long enough now, so I think I'll continue another video from here, because from here it spirals completely out of control. But I'm gonna be honest, and I'm gonna say everything that I've done and where I think I could have. Well, I'm gonna try and say where I think I could have done better. But I also don't think I could have done better, because at this stage I was completely broken, and I was in full rage. I was 15 years old. I can start fending for myself, and this is around about the age I started fighting back. I mean, this has been 15 years of full-on abuse, where at times I should have died, where I actually made it. And so if you guys would follow me on this journey, I'm going to continue this in the next video.